Okay, folks, so we have a 60-minute liver gallbladder yin practice. You guys will need some things. Don't worry if you don't, because there's always ways we can work with it. But if you do, grab a strap, a bolster, a blanket, and a block. And we'll get started. So we're going to come onto the left side. And I want you guys to start with your knees bent, like so. Left arm, like so. You can rest the right arm just on the side there. Or you can rest the right hand on the floor or whatever works. But we're interested in the left side of the body to begin with. I'm just going to put my timer on. So if you see me on my phone throughout this practice, it's just because I want to make sure that I've timed it and it's even on both sides. So I like to let my left ear rest down onto the shoulder there. You might want to keep your head up a little bit more. But the idea is we're starting to really relax through the left side rib cage, left side of the body, gallbladder meridian. Not too much talking today, but just a bit of space here to allow you guys to feel into what's occurring in your body along this line. So just don't worry if it's not intense or it is intense, like be with that. So you can move into that mindset right away. It's just welcoming everything that's here today. So not really labeling, not trying to understand, not trying to make meaning, just being here with the sensation that is present in your body. Knowing that the body knows exactly what it needs to do in this place. All right. It's about halfway there. Again, just steady breath, nothing too focused or too intense. Last couple of breaths here. Start to bring the bolster forward just so you guys can see where we're going with that. Now you don't need to use a bolster. You can just have the leg forward a little bit, or you can pop a block under there or something else. And you can stay in this version with the right knee, so still on the left side. The right knee is on a prop or a block. And you can start to take that right at the bottom leg, which is the left leg, back. And you'll feel straight away that intensifies the release through the left side of the rib cage. Some people like to hold the foot in place. That's probably a little bit too much for me. You've got the right knee, which is the top knee, on a supported something. And then the back leg is moving back just enough to feel like you're getting an extra bit of release there through the left side of the body. So still working the gallbladder, liver meridians. And again, not a majorly long hold. Most holds are pretty short today, like the 3-minute mark, maybe a little bit longer for some. And it's not necessarily about the length of time we hold it for. Like obviously 3 minutes is a good amount to get the fascial unwind. We get beyond those superficial layers of tension so we can move into some of the deeper rooted tension patterns. That's important. But it's more important the quality of your attention. So if you're here for 10 minutes but you're thinking about everything but this, it's pretty pointless. But if you're here for a few minutes and you're fully into what is happening in your body, the quality of attention is what allows the energy to shift through there. So that's old saying of where our attention goes, energy flows, and it's right. Put our mind into the muscles, the energetic channels of the body. So we've got about a minute left here. Just always be your own guide in terms of the intensity. If it starts to get really, really intense for you, you can always back it off. Remember, if it gets really, really comfortable, then you can start to deepen this by taking the hand to the foot that is bent, which is the left leg, the bottom leg, and holding on to that left foot with the right hand. You can even start to twist the chest up towards the ceiling a little there as well. Yeah, let's just take one more breath here. And out. Oh. It's a sticky, sticky place for me today, that. Now, staying with our attention on the left leg. So this is where your straps will come into it. If you don't have a strap, even just something like a towel or a belt or something like that will do absolutely fine. And we're going to come down onto our back, and the left foot will be in the strap. Okay. Now we're just going to take that left leg over to the right just enough so we start to get a sensation on the outer left side of the leg there. So we don't need to go like majorly far, like just kind of feeling for that's going to be different for everybody. And again, it's not about how much of a release we can get on the outside leg, just that we are getting a release. And what's interesting for me is like the deeper I go, the less of a release there is. So actually, it's better for me to stay a little bit less into the pose, so I can get that sensation on the outer left side of the leg. And again, you can hold the strap with the right hand, having the elbow resting on the floor. I like to hold it with the right and the left. Just enough to get this sense of feeling, particularly around the outer left hip joint. Just a couple more breaths there. And again, just being open, so there might be space to let the leg move into a different position. And maybe you notice as you hold this, the intensity begins to intensify. That's definitely true for me in this pose. Alright. So keeping the strap on the left foot, we're going to start to set up for a version of banana asana. So the right leg will go over to the right side of the mat. The left leg's going to come on top. Just rearranging my strap here. And then the elbow crease comes in the strap like so. You might need to make it a little bit longer. That was a bit ambitious of me there. So that eventually the foot, the left leg, is resting on the right in a banana asana type position. And you have your elbow in the strap supporting the leg. So you might need to rearrange yourself there, but we're still focusing on the outer left leg line. It's just another variation there, just to get into that liver gallbladder meridian place. And you don't want to be working the elbow too much, so just make sure that the strap is tight enough that all your elbow's really doing is holding that strap in place. So if you've got it too tight, your elbow will be really working, so you should have your arm pretty floppy. Start to feel then for a let go through the pelvis. And just being aware of not constantly seeking that like real deep intensity in these poses. We work in the subtle body, which, you know, obviously there's sensation still, but sometimes it can be really subtle. Because it's subtle, we think it's not working, and so we try harder, and it causes probably more tension in the body. It's the opposite to what we're aiming to do. And again, we've got about maybe 5 or 6 breaths here. If there is another position that is good for you, then please, by all means, use it. Maybe you can take your legs a little deeper to the right. Maybe you're just all good here. slowly, bring your body back to center. Let's just pause there for a moment and just see if you can get a sense of the changes there from left to right. So you might just even notice that one side of the body feels freer, which is usually the case for me. A lot of the energy around the liver and gallbladder is when it's not flowing optimally, we can feel really stuck. It's like we're trying to move forward, but we just can't quite do that. Alrighty, let's change sides. We're going to do that whole thing. It's like a little yin flow on the other side. Have your bolster and your strap nearby. So the right side is typically the liver and the gallbladder physical location. So you might notice that this feels a little bit more intense, or maybe it's less intense, or maybe it's exactly the same. So we're just on the right side there with the knees bent to start with. You can let the right ear rest towards the shoulder. Just notice what happens in the right side of the ribs when you do that. Does it deepen the experience for you? Does it lessen it but make it more manageable? If you pick the head up, what happens? And just really, beginning to make these practices super, super personal so that you know that you're targeting the places in your body that need the attention. Okay, so my body might feel tight in one place, your body might feel tight in another place. One pose might be really intense for you. It might not be intense at all for me. Last couple of breaths, yeah. Maybe try leaning forward a little bit. Notice how that shifts the awareness to a different place in the body, and maybe lean back a little bit and just play with that. Yin doesn't have to be absolutely still all of the time. The yin and the yang cross over constantly. And then taking a hold of your bolster, and we add on so the left knee comes onto the bolster, and that right knee starts to move back away from the bolster. So you take it back as far as feels like it's working for you. You can hold on to that foot straight away. For me, that's way too intense. I like to hold it for a little bit first, let my body get used to that, and then eventually maybe I might hold it with my hand for the last minute or so. But I'll let you guys know when we're there. And if you're someone that finds that quiet is challenging in a practice, it's a really good opportunity to spend a bit of time practicing getting okay with that. It's nice to have guidance and words and understanding, but also time to really feel into our own experience and be in that place of silence and solitude that allows us to begin to get intimate with our body. Last few breaths again. Maybe feel for leaning forward into that shape a little bit, maybe leaning back a little bit. Just get this sense of feeling through the right side of the rib cage. Maybe you can just relax a little more in that place for the last breath. Whoa, it's always tricky coming out, so let's take your time to come out of that. Maybe noticing the difference there from left to right as well. Like for me, my left side was way more sticky. And then we're going to get the strap and we'll start with the right leg in the strap this time. Alrighty, and then we're just going over to the left side, just enough to start to feel for the outer right thigh there. So for me, if I go all the way over, I actually don't get as much for some reason, which might be the opposite for you, but just play around with that. Like we assume that if we go into the fullest version, we're going to get the most out of it, and it's not always the case. Like we miss out on these little pockets of tension on the way, which is usually, in my experience, where the gold is. Because we go to we go to the deepest version of everything straight away in everything. It's like we go straight to the destination and miss out on the journey to get there, which is very, very typical of our culture and our society. And of course we're going to do that in our practice. It's what we do in every other area of our life. So when we start to slow things down in the practice and we take the time to actually enjoy the journey or enjoy the phases and the different stages, then we can begin to kind of bring that notion into daily life, where we start to focus on just enjoying the process of achieving something rather than the outcome of what it's going to be like. It's a complete mindset shift. And a lot of the time, the clues of what's going on for us is in the way we do things, is in the process and how we get there. A couple more breaths. You might want to go a little bit deeper, or maybe just stay where you are. Maybe it's gotten really intense and you need to back out a little bit. So just notice what you're noticing. Good. And then we're going to take that banana asana type variation. So the left leg will come to the outer left side of the mat. So you're in a banana asana type position with the right leg on top. And then the elbow comes in the strap. So interestingly, the strap can be a little bit tighter for me on this side, which means my right side's probably a little bit more open. Just observing that, like it's really interesting to observe this stuff in relation to other parts of the practice that we do, and how we move through our life. And we're never going to be completely balanced, like we're not symmetrical, so there's always going to be imbalances from one side to the other, but it does help to notice where we tend to carry our tension, just so that we can be a little bit more aware when we're moving through our practice or our life. The idea is we want to bring our body into the closest we can to balance, to homeostasis. So that the yin and the yang aspects of our body are equally present. If you're anything like me, yang comes very naturally. It's very easy to do the things and take action and all of that stuff, but the yin is something that I have to constantly practice in order to not do, like just the being, the stillness. But the body needs both, as does the mind. Couple more breaths, yeah. Maybe exploring the deeper version and taking the legs a little bit further to the left, or maybe just staying where you are. Slowly. Oh, edge back through centres. Take a moment, let the body take that in. You can feel a little bit longer through the sides of the ribs there. Maybe you're noticing other areas of the body that also feel as though they're flowing a little bit easier. And then come on up. So we're going to move into Sphinx pose. You might want to bolster or some blocks nearby if you're going to add a little bit of extra into this. Let's start on the belly. So you can work with your palms pressing together. I quite like that for the support on the shoulders. There it just feels as though there's less pressure or less activation through the shoulders to keep the body up. And if that's not good for you, you can always rest your chin in your hands, which doesn't work for me but might work for you. And then if you're wanting to come in a little bit deeper, you can bring your forearms up on a bolster, which I like. It's somewhere in between a sphinx and a seal. And of course, if you want to come into seal and you know what that is, you may do that. I'm not going to cue that today. Just because the tendency of the liver is to overwork. And it's mindful that we want to be doing enough to be able to feel this stuff for sure. We don't want to be doing so much that we burn out the body. That's typical tendency of those of us that have excess heat in the liver particularly, which can cause all sorts of disturbances in the body and the mind. So sure, if you want to go into seal because you really feel as though you can go there today, do it. But if you're just doing it because you're someone that takes the advanced version of everything, don't do it today. Be okay with not doing all of the things all of the time. Alrighty, so you can stay where you are. We're going to add in another bit of option here. So if you want to come into a half frog, the left knee bends. And you can also bring that leg up onto a block. So I like the block version, but it might be too intense for you. So just again, play around. If you do it and you think it's not working for me at all, then stop doing it. If you do it and you think, yeah, that's great, keep doing it. So we get into that little bit of the inner leg line. Again, you can always come down off the bolster and the block and just do this in a regular sphinx with one knee bent. So that's always an option. Like the props are going to add more intensity in this one because they're lifting up the body. Let's just take one more breath in there. And slowly slide the block away as you breathe out. And move it to the other side. Again, just pretty short holds here. Just enough to still know that we're getting everything we need from the posture. So the block's underneath the right knee now. Right knee is bent. If you don't want to use a block, don't use a block. If you need to come down off the bolster, come off the bolster. Like, make this work for you in a way that feels as though it's definitely challenging, but there's a rejuvenating quality of energy that comes with that. So it's not just this like intensity where you're trying to hang on for dear life. Like, that's not the practice. Sure, you want to feel something, absolutely, but it's manageable. It's not an unmanageable level of intensity. Alrighty. Come out slowly, like just again, notice that tendency to rush. I have to be so mindful of myself. And then let's just move back into a wide knee child's pose. So You can do this on or off a bolster. I need my microphone. I'm taking the knees out nice and wide. Maybe even the feet go a little bit wider, so the big toes don't necessarily have to touch. I love to koala the bolster here, but again, you don't need to use a bolster. If you just want to do wide knee child's pose, you can extend your arms forward and let the hips sink back towards the heels. That's plenty. Otherwise, koala in the bolster is also an option. So you can get your breath into the back line of the body there. Alrighty, and slowly start to move from that into our final pose before Shavasana, which is frog. So if where you are is pretty much enough for you, the child's pose or the bolster, then you can stay. Otherwise, taking the knees a little bit wider. I like to use a bolster in this still, but making sure the bolster's just not through the pelvis there, because when the pelvis goes to relax, we want to make sure that there's space. And then same thing, little koala of the bolster. Again, just making sure you've got lots of padding for the knees and the pelvis can freely open. An ideal scenario is shins parallel-ish to the edge of the mat. But you might want to bring your heels a little bit closer together and just make sure that the pelvis, the target area, inner thighs, that whole area is free to move and release. ready, friends. Starting to make your way slowly up. And you can come into final resting pose, however you like. Maybe you want to come onto your side for a change, if that feels like the most comfortable option for you. You can also just lay down like so on your back, maybe blankets, maybe something to cover your eyes. And we don't need as long in a Shavasana in Yin, just purely because it's such a down-regulating practice anyway. But remember at the end when we finish, if you need to stay longer, just completely honour that. Starting to bring a little bit of awareness back to the body. Wiggle the toes, maybe arms over the head. Just feel for a bit of length there as you stretch. Maybe a little circle of the ankles. Okay. And slowly, just a transition to one side. You can pause there for a moment while you allow for the breath and the body to merge. And then just very slowly easing on up to seated or kneeling. Hands to rest at the heart. We honour each other as we bow in gratitude. Namaste.